This is so nerdy of me, but I am really loving this process. Hey y'all, and welcome back to my weekly writing vlog. This is week 3 of this project, and last week, if you'll recall, I spent pretty much the entire time thinking deeply and developing the secret government agency around which this entire story is based. I made some good progress, however, I ran into some roadblocks that just weren't resolving themselves, and I felt like it was just a waste of time and energy to keep bashing my head against it. So I've set that aside, although it still does need some work. This week, I'm going to be focusing on characters. Typically, I'm not a big fan of doing a deep dive on characters ahead of time because I just feel like things like their personality and the things that they like and dislike, those things kind of resolve themselves in the draft. It's the one area that I don't feel comfortable planning ahead of time because I feel like they always just end up surprising you with their personality and their mood and their, just the way they interact with the world. It always just seems to come of its own accord while I'm drafting. That being said, what I can do and what I started doing today is listing out all of the characters who make an impact on the story, from the main character down to someone who was in one scene but changed the course of, how things went. And listing out the factual information about them, how old they are, a little bit about their background, anything that I already know is set in stone, and going from there. So I've already gotten started on that. I did my main character, Arceli. She is a young Latina woman who is living with her grandmother when she accidentally gets caught using magic, and that is her introduction into this behind the scenes world. And so I'm just listing out all of that information about her, how old she is, where she is living at the time, her relationship with her grandmother, why she's living with her grandmother, where are her parents, just kind of where she's at in life, and things of that nature, things that I know because I've already thought about all this, and these are things that are integral to the story. And then from there, we're going to move on to the person who's going to be like her handler in the secret government agency, the person who will be her boss, the person who's training her in magic, the person who she meets way later on and kind of changes her whole outlook on things. I'm going to go through and list all of these characters out and kind of get a rough list in my head. Again, I don't think this is going to be the end all and be all of, information about these characters. There's going to be way more information that comes out during the draft, and there's going to be things that might end up contradicting one another. But that's why I feel like it's important to go ahead and get an early start on writing down the things that I know are going to be either immutable or pretty close to immutable. Things that, again, matter to the story. So that's pretty much it for today. I'm going to be working on it a bit this evening as well. And yeah, that is my focus for this week, just working on characters and kind of figuring out how many, and this is another reason why I'm doing it, is how I'm filling out the cast. How many characters do I need? Because they can't all fill the same role. And especially in this big organization like the secret government agency, in my head before I started doing this, there was a very just linear path of people. But after I sat down and thought about it, I realized that doesn't really make sense in the context of this agency. And so I realized I really need a lot more people to make this world feel full and populated and realistic. So yeah, it'll be fun. It'll help me come up with things that I hadn't really put much thought into before, relationships and ways to integrate them into the story beyond maybe just the 1 or 2 scenes that they're in. Because again, this world needs to have its own life, things are going to be happening in the background that aren't necessarily on the page, and that matters too. So anyway, that is what I'm going to be working on today, and I will check in with you guys tomorrow once I've made some more progress. Hey y'all, it is now Sunday night, and I have done a little bit more work on my very rough character workups. I've added 3 more characters to my list in addition to my main character. And something that I realized is that I did not put hardly any thought at all into some of these characters. Even like the secondary main character, the person who is my main character's like handler at the secret government agency, the person who's going to be like her partner. I didn't really do much development apart from like his name and his age and his like physical appearance. That was pretty much it. And it's just like, I'm sort of embarrassed to realize that I had started drafting without like even just the most basic ideas of his background figured out yet. But the good news is I'm doing it now. And in doing so, I've actually generated like more ideas for what the different like departments of this secret government agency, like the different offices, some of the things that they will do and some of their like services that they offer, and what their role is within this agency. I've gotten more ideas for those. So as I was filling out these character workups, and I mean, when I say workups, like it's really just the most basic information about them. But anyway, as I was doing that, I was coming up with ideas for other areas and going back into my notebook and adding those ideas to the list. So even though this feels really, really basic, it is, and yet I still hadn't done it until now, despite having 25,000 words in a draft, and B, like even just something as basic as this is generating more ideas which will fill out this world and make it feel full and realistic and not like I just slapdashed everything together based on my plot needs, which unfortunately is what I feel like I was doing up until now. Just ignoring everything that wasn't directly relevant to a scene. Short update today. I'm going to continue. So tomorrow my goal is to do a few more of these, but I'm coming to a point now where I'm going to have to go back and think more about the structure of the agency again and decide some key characters and where they are in the hierarchy. I don't know if I'll get to that tomorrow. That might be a Tuesday thing, but that is coming up on my list of needs. Because previously there was a character who I thought was going to be like the head of this agency, and then after I did my research into how like these agencies work, I realized that it didn't really make sense. So now I have to decide if I want to keep her in that role, but like limit her role in the actual story to keep her in this position, or just swap her out, put her in a position that's closer to the main characters but of less power, and then put someone else in that. It's just, I haven't decided. So I have to really think about that. That's my goal for tomorrow, is to, flesh out some more characters. And if I get to it tomorrow, start thinking about that hierarchy again of certain characters. So I will check in with you tomorrow and let you know how I progressed. And I guess that's it. I'll see you then. Hey y'all, just checking in with another writing update. I've had a pretty productive day, I would think. I made some more progress on my just kind of character list, where I'm listing out, the characters that I know are going to have an impact on the story and the things that I know about them already. I was brainstorming in the shower this morning and decided how each character was going to fit into this hierarchy of the secret government agency, which was something I had been brooding over for the last couple of days. So that I got that knocked out. And then while I was going through this character list, I realized I had a lot more fleshing out to do in terms of certain aspects of the world and some backstory before the main character kind of arrives on the scene. So I started fleshing out, there's one element of the whole series that's going to play like a minor role in the first book, but like is going to be like a major player in the whole series, is like this magic cult. So I kind of started writing out like what their manifesto would be, how many members they're suspected to have, what their power structure is like. I started working on that a little bit. It needs a little bit more development, but I think I've just about gotten everything I can get with that. And then the next thing that I want to do tomorrow is do a high-level series overview. I've said before that I want to make this series at least 9 books. Well, I've planned for 9 books. I know how it starts, and I know how it ends, and I know some beats in between. What I realized today is I need to make some firm decisions on what each book will cover so that I don't accidentally give the game away too early. So what I'm going to do tomorrow is just kind of do a high level overview of what each book is going to kind of entail, what each book is going to reveal, and how it'll progress the overall story. Like I said, 9 books, so I could do 3 mini arcs that all build up to a completed story. And I could do it even in 3-act structure if I wanted to break it down even more than that. So that's my goal for tomorrow. When I'm done with that might take me a day or two. When I'm done with that, the next thing I want to do is in the beginning, like what happened before the main character arrives on the scene. The antagonist of this first book has some backstory that needs to be kind of pinpointed, and some of the history of like the main characters in this secret government agency, what they were up to, and that kind of progression of things, because Arceli is arriving kind of in the middle of something. And so I need to have all of those events firm in my mind before I start writing. That's my plan for the next, that'll probably cover the rest of this vlog. But yeah, it was really productive today. As I was writing out these characters, I realized I have, some other areas that I need to work on and things that I never had questioned before until I, sat down and started doing this. So I would say that's pretty productive. I'm not finished with that character list because I'm sure more are going. I only have, I think, 8 or 9 on that list so far. And I'm sure that there's going to be more in this first book that are going to be important. But those are the ones that are immediately obvious to me. And it's just so funny how when you're in the weeds of something completely unconnected pops up, and I'm like, oh, that would make a good plot point for a later book, or oh, I need to answer these questions now even though they're not relevant now because they'll be relevant later and it'll color now. This is so nerdy of me, but I am really loving this process. This is the part that I have missed over the last 2 years because I haven't been doing this part, and answering these questions every day it's like having an aha moment every day, and I really, really love that. And I also can rest assured in the knowledge that when I get to the draft, most of these questions are going to be answered, and I'm still going to have room to grow, because it's always when you're in the weeds of something that new ideas pop up. So I think that's something that a lot of pantsers disdain or don't really get about planners, is that yes, you have all of these ideas ahead of time, but there is still room for discovery even in the draft. And I feel like that makes drafting so much easier, because drafting is very difficult for me because it requires a lot of discipline that I haven't built up just yet. It's just something that I have struggled with, which I know is kind of embarrassing as an aspiring writer, but it is what it is. I love planning. I love answering all these questions. And if I make it to revision, you'll see that I love revision too. Anyway, it was a good day. Let's just put it that way. It was a really good day. And I'm looking forward to getting back into it later. I may even get back into it tonight if I have time, and answering some of those questions about the high level overview of my story and whatnot. So anyway, I'll check in with you guys tomorrow and let you know what I've been up to. Hey y'all, and welcome to the end of this vlog. It is now Wednesday evening, and I didn't write yesterday. When I got home, I just wasn't really feeling up to writing. And so I decided to just not do anything. I didn't read or write or anything that I didn't want to do. And I actually feel like it's really important to, when you're in that headspace where you don't feel like writing is something you can do, to give yourself the grace to actually take that break. Because I'm someone who, if I try and bash my head through it, A, I'm not going to produce my best work, and B, I'm just going to feel miserable afterwards because I pushed myself so hard when I was mentally drained from other things. So I took the time off, and I feel like I really benefited from it today, because today what I worked on was a super high level overview of the entire 9-book series that this book that I am theoretically going to start writing soon is, the first of. I had a lot of fun doing it, and I feel like I generated a lot of good ideas. So what I did, I think I mentioned this last time, but the 9 books I am breaking down into 3-book mini arcs, and in those arcs I'm going to follow these 3-act structures. So what I did today was, again, I went super high up, and I just went for each mini arc. I listed out 3 plot lines that are going to be through lines for the entire series and what the state of them are. So one storyline is the A plot. That's kind of the short-term monster of the week kind of story Then I have a B plot, which is going to focus on the character, the main character herself, and what her like kind of inner status is. And then the C plot, which is the actual like main through line that's, you know, very slow burn and building up throughout the course of the series, culminating in the very, very end. And then I did that. I kind of said, where is it at the start of the first mini arc? How does it, you know, what is the status at the end of the mini arc? And I did that for all 3 mini arcs, these 3 different plots. So I feel like that was really, really fun, really productive, and really insightful to me to have like the answer to the question, what is holding all 9 books together? Because I've had the ending planned out. Again, I've mentioned this before, I can't start until I have an ending in mind. And that is true both on the micro level, like for the first book, and on the macro level, the entire series. And I have had that ending for the series planned out already. But I needed to kind of figure out like, what's the through line? What connects point A to point B? And I've kind of had an idea, but I haven't actually put it on paper until today. And so just seeing it written out and like seeing that it kind of makes sense, and then adding in these other plot lines that that support that main through line while being separate was really, really just exciting for me to see that it all like blends together well, and knowing that there's so much more to learn, so much more to fill in here, that this isn't the end all and be all. Oh my gosh, it was awesome. I was really excited about the progress I made with that. And then once I finished with that, I took the first mini arc and started expanding on it. So what I did for each book in that first mini arc, I talked about what the goal is going to be, what that A plot, the monster of the week, what the short-term goal of the book would be. Then I talked about what we learn in this book in terms of like what revelations, what our main character learn about the antagonist and the world and herself, those kinds of things. That's going to be the B plot, what she learns. And then the third thing that I listed for each book is the hook into the next one. So like what is going to be that cliffhanger for that, you know, induces someone to continue reading. And so I did that for each of the first 3 books in that first mini arc. And I think I'm actually going to stop there, because I feel like getting too far ahead of myself isn't going to be really helpful, because there's just going to be so much that changes as I'm writing the first 3 books, really even just the first book. There's going to be so much that I learn, so much that I add, new characters that I'm going to want to bring into the fold and focus on, and, you know, all of that stuff. So I feel pretty strongly that these first 3 books, I've got a good idea of their A plot, their short-term plot, and how they fold into the major C plot, you know, that one thread all the way through. And also developing our main character, her partner, the main male character who is like her handler, her partner, and then a third character who I have already picked out for development way ahead of this anyway. So I feel really strongly that these first 3 books have a solid foundation. Obviously, there's so much more that it needs to be fleshed out. But until I get a little bit further into the like actual drafting process, I'm going to leave it at that and not extend into the next mini arc, because like I said, there's just going to be so much that comes out, so much more that I'm going to want to add. I don't want to lock myself into an idea and then like feel kind of immovable from it. So that's what I did today. And I have to admit that it made me really excited. It made me really excited to start writing. And I have no idea if even one of these 9 books are going to be published, but just knowing that I have the material and I have like the ideas to support such a long series just makes me feel so excited, so energized about what I can do, that like I just want to get I want to get going. I want to do it all. I want to write, and I want to get it out there, because I think that I did some really good work today, and I think that there's so much more good to come from this project in general. Obviously, I'm not going to start writing right away because I still have so much more to develop. And so that's what we're going to focus on next week. I'm actually going to return to my magic system tomorrow. That was the first thing that I started developing, if you may recall, once I picked this project for the next thing that I'm writing. And I had some ideas come out today about the magic system that I had kind of started developing the first time I wrote it, but it wasn't really super like ingrained or fleshed out. And then I realized today as I was working on it that I could adapt this idea if I just expand upon it a little bit. So it's like a subsection of the magic system that focuses on the senses. And so tomorrow I'm going to think a little bit more deeply about that, about how different types of magic are related to the senses, and do a little bit more thinking about that. I don't have a plan after that. I know I need to do a little bit more work on characters and setting. I need to go back to my secret government agency and do a little bit more fleshing out there as well. But I feel like here in the next 2 or 3 weeks, I am going to start looking at my first skeleton, my first plot skeleton, which is my precursor to a detailed outline. But I'm not there yet. But I'm making really, really, really good progress. I'm really excited about the work I did today. It really helped solidify for me that I'm on the right track. I'm thinking long term. I'm not locked into just one plot that's not going to make sense in 9 books, even though I wanted to write 9 books. And it's just a matter of following the guidelines, but also being flexible enough to adapt to whatever comes up in the draft, whatever develops, as I'm working through things, because I think that always is going to be the case. You're never going to have 100% of your story figured out when you start writing. There's always going to be things that change, and always going to be things that you thought would work, but end up not being executed, in the way that you thought. So yeah. So anyway, so that was what I did today. I'm really excited about it. I had a lot of fun, and I'm so looking forward to getting back into the magic system and developing it a little bit more. And continuing to build this world out as I start thinking about the way that these world building elements affect the plot and vice versa. So that is it for me for this writing vlog. Thank you so much for coming along on this journey with me. It has been so much fun sharing my process with you guys. As always, if you want to support the channel and what I am doing here with this vlog series, please consider liking and subscribing. It is so appreciated. I also have my Ko-Fi linked below if you want to support me in that way. In my next video, I am going to be doing a reading vlog for you. I hope you look forward to it, and I will see you then.